Welcome viewers, and today we're going to explore and talk about interesting aspects of the operating system that many of us have been using it for decades. Among the popular ones are iOS and Android. So, as the mobile usage are becoming more demanding, the evolution of mobile phone is evolving every single day. This applies to the operating system as well. The evolution of operating system has came a long way, making it more user-friendly and multitasking different tasks. Now, it is crucial to have a good interface and always offers unique advantages to your end users about what does the operating system can do when designing an operating system. All this because you have to satisfy requirements of the user needs and want. In general, we believe that both iOS and Android is a good operating system and have loyalty customers to support their mobile application no matter what.
Now let's talk about the background of Android. Here's a fact. Android was founded in California in 2003. So what is Android? Android is an operating system built for touchscreen mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets. Android is created based on Linux, an operating system we can generally find on a desktop server, but bear in mind that they are not the exactly same thing. So following the rapid advance of technology, different versions of Android also appear, such as Android 11 and Android Marshmallow. Each one of these names implies that there is a germ either in their feature, operation, or stability. Why people use Android? The first reason is people can get access to all the Android apps. The second reason is people can tinker with it for free and create whatever application they want. Third reason is Android operating system support multitasking, 2D and 3D graphics, and all the Google services. Example of Android application. Android application control remote robots. As the name suggested, by using an Android operating system based device, people can control the IoT devices such as control robot by transmitting a chain of command to the robot. The second example is built-in apps such as Google Drive, Google Play Store, Google Search, and Gmail.
iOS is an operating system that is created by Apple Inc. iOS is first announced on January 9, 2007. This operating system is first called iPhone operating system, but the name changed to iOS in June 2009. iOS is the one and only operating system runs on iPhone, iPod, and iPad. This operating system is the second largest mobile operating system installed after Android.
Now, let's talk about review and discussion. Let's talk about protection and security. Protection and security of our mobile devices nowadays should be the top priority for everyone. As technology becomes more and more advanced this year, more malicious people start to find ways to exploit this technology to steal other people's information. When facing this kind of situation, most people are not prepared and risk losing all their important data stored in their phone. Therefore, choosing and buying a mobile phone with good security is a must for everybody in order to keep safe. In this case, both Android and iOS, which one of these operating systems offer more security and protection to the user? Let's start with iOS operating system. Apple iOS operating system is a closed system and is tightly controlled by the Apple company itself, known as a source code, meaning no modification can be done. Apple company not only tightly control the apps available in the App Store, but they also tightly control its hardware supply chain. Apple company constantly releases new updates to strengthen their security and therefore make it more difficult for the hackers to find vulnerabilities. Let's talk about Android operating system. Android devices rely on an open source code, which means everyone can tinker or modify the code. This will make things worse as much more vulnerabilities will appear as there are many different versions of Android. Hackers will find the vulnerabilities inside the code and exploit them much more easier. And not only that, hackers will also exploit and distribute malware apps using the Google Play Store. Another point is, users also can download apps from the outside source which are not safe at some time. They will expose themselves to more viruses and malware. But there is a silver lining for Android. Android has a bigger market, which means There are much more security apps designed just for Android users. And lastly, Google is not able to use security updates as frequent because of the recent version of Android.
The next in-depth technical review is ecosystem. Ecosystem is a tech terms means that inseparable part of technology and service that is provided by a company which is needed to purchase in order to fully utilize the product. Devices that runs on iOS work seamlessly. As an example, iOS devices is equipped with features such as iCloud, AirDrop, and AirPlay. So basically, what does AirDrop do? AirDrop does is both iOS devices can share files wirelessly and instantly without using mobile cellular. This feature can be used by just turning on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. AirPlay is a feature that can cast the phone screen to an Apple TV or an AirPlay enabled smart TV by connecting to the same Wi-Fi network. On the other hand, Android is an open source type of operating system. This allows manufacturers to implement and create their own product to suit the Android operating system devices. Most of the Android devices have NFC, which is near field communication, that does almost the same thing as AirDrop but in shorter range. Android operating system is mostly relying on third party such as Google services. The downside of using Apple's operating system is that the devices which equipped with the technology is expensive, unlike Android. However, Android operating system is able to download third-party apps from the internet, which some does have low security and it is able to steal personal information from the user.
Moving on to iOS and Android architecture. So, an operating system architecture is a concept or design that refers to the overall design regarding the hardware and the software components. Now surprisingly, iOS and Android operating system have the same architecture, which is layer architecture. That means they share the same advantages such as breaking the components into a layer, but inside the design and layer are different. Let's have a look at iOS architecture from bottom to the top, whereby the first layer is called Core OS, and this layer contains low-level features that other technologies build upon, such as security frameworks and core Bluetooth frameworks, and interacts with the hardware. Now above the Core OS layer, we have Core Services. Judging by the name Core, it is responsible for handling basic device services that used by native iOS users. The frameworks in this layer are Addressbook, HealthKit, CloudKit, and many others. The next layer is called Media, and this layer is responsible for audio, video, and graphics to be clear and transparent. The framework of this layer are UI graphics, core animation, and others. Now the top layer in iOS architecture is called Coca Touch, that contains high-level system services such as multitasking, touch-based input, and push notifications. Moving on to Android OS architecture from bottom to the top, the first layer is called Linux kernel, and users and developers never really seems to interact with it because it is an hardware abstraction layer. For example, camera drivers are in the Linux kernel layer. Next, we're going to talk about libraries, and this layer has two parts. One is Android runtime and the other one is platform libraries. The platform libraries is a set of Java-based libraries such as WebKit and SQLite for databases and needed for developers to build Android apps. The other part of the libraries is application runtime, and it contains Dalvik virtual machine. Basically, it converts Java file into text format. Next layer is called Application Framework, which provide high-level services such as Activity Manager, Notification Manager to allow application developers to make use of these services in their applications. Top layer is called Application, and it basically is just native and third-party apps such as Context, Gallery, Clock will be installed on this layer only.
Now, let's talk about the kernel of Android and iOS. But first, what is a kernel? A kernel is the heart and core of an OS, the first program to be loaded after bootloader, and an intermediary between hardware and software. Now, let's talk about the kernel that iOS uses, the SNU kernel. The full form of SNU is X is not Unix. It is a combination of hybrid kernel and Mach kernel, and it is developed in Carnegie Mellon University using components of FreeBSD and C++ API. The Mach part of it does a low-level work such as virtual memory management. The special of it is it runs on x86-64 for both single processor and multiprocessor. Let's continue about the kernel of an Android, the Linux kernel. Linux kernel is developed by Linus Torvalds, a Finnish computer science student. This kernel is special because it has the features of a microkernel and monolithic kernel. However, it's still considered as a monolithic kernel. The monolithic part of it is responsible for managing the CPU, memory, system server costs, and others. The differences between both kernels is GNU existed longer and it was created based on the combination of FreeBSD and C++ API. The GNU kernel is used on iOS device only. Linux kernel is more modern compared to GNU. It is written from scratch and used on many other devices. The pros of a hybrid kernel are having the ability to control what to run during supervisor mode and user mode. The con is the hardware manufacturer needs to take more effort since all the driver responsibility is on them. It also has latency issue that is inherent in microkernel. The pros of a monolithic kernel is it manages most of the things in the systems. It also has direct access to the system so it doesn't need to queue to solve the task. Monolithic kernel is easier to malfunction because the more things that runs in supervisor mode, the more things they can bring down the system when it doesn't work correctly.
So lastly, I'm going to talk about the conclusion for the report. Both Android and iOS are still the dominating operating system on the market nowadays, and both of them still have their own pros and cons. Looking on the security aspect, Android is still much weaker as it relies on an open source code while iOS is a closed system. People tinker too much with Android and therefore creating a bigger chance for hacker to attack. Secondly, the ecosystem of Android and iOS both have their own pros and cons and therefore no one has a better edge. Android provides users a wider range of apps and services, while iOS provides a better user experience. Other than that, Android and iOS have a similar operating system architecture, which is layer approach. Last but not least, Android and iOS also use different kernels which are Linux and XNU. XNU existed longer and was created based on a combination of two even older code base, while Linux is more modern, written from scratch and is used on many other devices. Both has their own pros and cons and therefore no one has the better edge as well. In conclusion, both Android and iOS have fields which they excel and fields which they are bad at. There are no winner today, but we believe in the future one of them will stand out and claim the title of best operating system.